Hi there, I'm Jen, this is Remembered Reads, and this is going to be the Star Trek book tag. I was tagged by Jess from Garden Scriptorium, and I will link her channel below. And this tag was created by JD Archer, and I will link his original tag below as well. And since it is the Star Trek tag, I'm being joined by my figures of Bashir and Sisko, who normally live on a shelf in a different room, but it seemed fitting to have them here for this. Alright, so question number 1 is Star Trek the Original Series, a corny yet entertaining book. And this was fun because I was watching other people's tags, and the people who were fans of the original series were like, hey, what are you calling corny? Which I thought was fun. Although who says corny has to be a bad thing? In any case, my choice for corny but entertaining is One Night at the Call Center, which is a story about an author who is traveling on a train, and he meets a girl who works at a call center, and she's going to tell him a story, and he's going to write about the story. The twist in it is that God calls into the call center. But what it really is about the relationships of the people working in this overnight call center. So, I mean, the twist, the God calls part, is corny. But I thought it was really entertaining, and I really liked the characters and their interactions with each other. And yeah, it was a fun book. Question number 2 is Star Trek The Next Generation. And the question here is, the sequel was better than the original. My choice for that would be Toby's Room by Pat Barker, which is the second book in the Life Class trilogy. The first book, which was called Life Class, was set in the period immediately before the First World War, and it was about this group of 4 friends who were studying at an art institute. And in this, the second one, the 3 male characters had been in the armed forces, and the one female character is involved in drawing men who have had facial injuries during the war. The third one is Noonday, which is set during the Second World War, and I talked about that in a wrap-up before. But of the 3, I think Toby's Room was the best, and the one that or at least the one that I enjoyed the most. I had a hard time picking one for this because there are really a couple of choices where I could have gone with something else, because there are a number of series where I actually think the third book is better than the second, but not necessarily than the first. Like, I always think Robertson Davies' Deptford trilogy is one of those where I really prefer World of Wonders to the Manticore, although I think a lot of people think the Manticore is the best one in that series, but question number 3 is Star Trek Deep Space Nine, which you can tell is my favorite. And that is a book or series with a great ensemble cast. And for that, I'm going to pick Warren Ellis's run on Stormwatch. This particular one is the second collection of his run. I really like what he did with the Stormwatch characters that he inherited. And this is also the period during which he introduced a lot of the Authority characters, like Jack Hawksmoor and Jenny Sparks, and in this particular volume, Apollo and the Midnighter. Yeah, it was just overall good stuff. Great art, because Bryan Hitch was drawing most of this, and yeah, just a really entertaining set of characters. Question number 4 is Star Trek Voyager, which is a book or series involving an epic journey. I was never a big fan of Voyager, to be honest. So for this one, I'm going to pick Eric Shanower's Age of Bronze, which is a... Wait a minute, I almost opened. I almost opened it to a page that would have been inappropriate to show. Which is a really nice black and white graphic retelling of the Trojan War, which may be a bit of a strange choice because it's not a long journey. They're traveling from what was in classical Greece, one part of Greece to another. Today it's part of modern Greece to what is part of Turkey, which is a pretty short distance, but it is very epic in the way the characters are, building their armies and making their plans and all of that. And yeah, this is a fantastic series. Question number 5 is Star Trek Enterprise, which I only ever watched the first episode of. Maybe the first and second, I don't know. The guitar of the theme song, just not my thing. That seems like a ridiculous reason not to enjoy a show, but yeah. So anyway, this question is a book or series with a bad ending. And for this one, I wouldn't say that this series necessarily had a bad ending, but it just was disappointing to me. and that is Guy Gavriel Kay's The Sarantine Mosaic, which is a two-book series. It's basically set in an alternative version of the Byzantine Empire, and it's about a mosaicist who is traveling to Sarantium, which is basically Constantinople, and about the kind of political situation as the government is changing and as the religious attitudes are changing. It is, you know, kind of theoretically fantasy, but it is very light on the fantasy elements. It is really more of an alternative history. In the same way that I guess The Lions of El Rasan was. It's the same universe as that. In any case, this was a really beautiful series. I loved this. I mean, I think I read both of these when they were coming out, so I mean, the first one was almost 20 years ago, the second one was like 15 years ago, and I still, whenever I see classical mosaics, I think of some of the scenes in this series, so it really was brilliant like that. But the second one, the final one, has an epilogue, which is only about a page and a half long, but the main character he's in what I think is supposed to be a pseudo-Italy. He's alone and he's working on these final mosaic projects that no one's going to see, and a woman shows up. He smells her perfume. He says, "Hello, so-and-so." And he's wrong about who it is, but it's somebody else. And anyway, and it's not so much that I didn't want him to end up with a person or that it was the wrong person or whatever, or anything like that. It's the imagery of him working on this alone in this basically abandoned area was really powerful. And then by bringing in this sort of cutesy ending, it really kind of ruined the tone of the whole scene for me. So I was really disappointed with that. So yeah, I mean, it didn't ruin the series, and it wasn't necessarily a bad ending, but it was a disappointing epilogue. And final question is Star Trek Discovery, your most anticipated future release. And right now, the future release that I'm looking forward to is Robin Hobb's Assassin's Fate, which should be coming out in May. Which is one of these series where I was disappointed that she was going back to the same characters again, but I actually really enjoyed the first two in this one, so I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. And that, I believe, is all of the questions. So, that was the Star Trek book tag. I'm going to do my usual thing and tag the last 5 people who left comments, but also, if you're a Star Trek fan, or alternatively, if you hate Star Trek but live with someone who watches it, and just want to use this excuse to rant, go ahead, do this. Consider yourself tagged. And that's it for now. Ciao.